Good morning, everyone. It is such a huge honor to be here today. I have never given a speech quite like this. Well, actually, I haven't ever given a speech. So I am a little nervous, but please bear with me. It is great to be here with a group of people that support stem cell research because it is something that is extremely important to me. I would like to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about myself and why I'm here. As they mentioned, my name is Riley Barlett and I am 8 years old. I live in Webb City, which is down in southwest Missouri. I was born September 3rd, 2001 in Joplin, Missouri. My dear mom was in labor for 24 and a half hours, which was a little hard on me, but maybe a little worse for her. When I finally did make my appearance into this world, I had a few minor problems. Like I didn't want to eat, my eyes were rolling back in my head, and I was very tired. The nurses all kept telling my mom it was because we had gone through such a long labor and I must have been worn out. But then something else happened. I quit breathing. My mom had to yell for the nurses. They came in and took me straight to the nursery. I started breathing again, and they decided to check my blood pressure, and it was 12. They told my mom that if I were an adult, I would have been in a diabetic coma. After a few little IVs, they were able to get my blood sugar back to normal, and I haven't had any more diabetic problems since then. However, this wasn't the end of my medical problems. In December of that same year, I was taken to the emergency room and admitted to the hospital for RSV, which is a very common virus that leads to mild cold-like symptoms in adults and older healthy children. It can be more serious in young babies, especially to those in certain high-risk groups. So I was in the hospital for several days while the doctors were trying to make me better. But then my pediatrician noticed something else. My eyes weren't following objects, or tracking as they called it. They tried to get a pediatric ophthalmologist to come in, but it was New Year's Eve, and the only one in the Joplin area was out of town on vacation. They made an appointment for my mom to take me into the office on January 18th, 2002. My mom kept watching me and knew something wasn't quite right, but stayed positive, thinking it was probably just a lazy eye or something that could be fixed. When we did finally go to the appointment, the doctor dilated my pupils so she could see inside my eyes and behind them too. She left the office for a few minutes and came back only to tell my mom that I had optic nerve hypoplasia and there was nothing they would be able to do. I would never see. And then she walked out of the room. My mom loaded me up and drove all the way across town to our church so she could pray over me with the ministers that were there. That day was the start of my mom having to become stronger than she ever knew she could be in many ways. She took me to Kansas City for a second opinion, to another eye doctor in Joplin for a third opinion, and finally to an eye doctor in Tulsa, Oklahoma for a fourth opinion. They all said the same thing about my eyes, that I had optic nerve hypoplasia and there wasn't anything they would be able to do to change it. But there were a couple of those doctors that told my mom they would be praying for us, and the doctor in Tulsa even prayed over me before we left his office. From that point, my mom did everything she could to make sure I had all the help I needed, from a physical therapist, an occupational therapist, a speech therapist, and even an awesome man who still does my orientation and mobility therapy. But of course, he's got to be a little irritating. I just added that detail.